Hi Matty, great session up at the range once again, good progress being made. Overall action, as we discussed, is now coming along nicely. Much better setup. Initial move away from the ball now is much tidier. Previously when you sent the footage across from Thornby Hall, even taking into consideration the slight sort of skewed camera angle, you would have been filming from maybe sort of this way, as opposed to, for future reference, ideally whoever's got the camera needs to be stood directly in line with the toe line and holding the camera at about chest height. That will give you an ideal sort of image that you can relate to the images that you're seeing during your sessions, because that's where we position the cameras, in line with the centre of your shoulder turn, which is obviously a key reference point for us. So takeaway much tidier, club tracing, a nice gentle inward path. As a result, we're coming away from the wall less, we're certainly moving towards the camera far less. Right arm softening a little bit. I've seen it soften better. I actually saw it soften better during this session, so that's just something that you've got to continue to work in. What we discussed was, first of all, that the swing tends to get just that little bit too long. We tend to get that back of the left hand twisting a little bit, and the downswing, we've always had that sort of flaily look where the shaft lays down maybe a little bit too much for you during the downswing. A lot of that is because of the past ways you've swung the club back, and it's a mechanism to get the club on the inside. You're using the loading of the back of the left hand, accumulator 3, and the extension where the head comes off the wall to keep the club in. You see the right heel popping up. That's a sort of form of extension going in there now. So, you know, one of the things we talked about previously was getting back into flexion. Let's just have a little look at how you're progressing with that. We talked about getting back into flexion with the right shoulder and the upper body, if you will. Trajectory of the right shoulder's improved dramatically. Head does come off the wall still a little bit. Left arm gets pulled out in front of you maybe a little bit too much. Wrists start to uncock a little bit too fast to make up for the head coming off the wall, to widen the radius, otherwise you wouldn't reach the golf ball. And we talked about how that in turn means that you lack a little bit of linear movement throughout the swing, and you were getting sort of pulls and fades, and that's fine, I've not got a problem with that, but we just wanted to turn that into a little bit more of an inline shot. So what we talked about was this move through the ball and regulating that and seeing if this could affect the rest of your swing. If we watch Charlie Wee here during his finish, we talked about on the way through, the head's very stable, there's a little bit of movement, it's not going to be fixed, but you can see how during the finish he has, if we took both of these swings back to a similar sort of position in regards to the distance the arms have travelled, his arms come across his chest a little bit more than yours, exits a little bit lower. We start to see that Charlie has a little bit more right tilt, and it's that right tilt that's keeping his head more in the box. In order to max out the right tilt in the finish, the hip slide must be continuous throughout the downswing. So during the downswing we want the hips to turn, slide and extend, and if those three things are happening to the maximum amount at P9, when the right arm's parallel with the ground, or upon completion of the swing, if you will, exit, you will see that the head is in the box, the inclination to the ground has been maintained, and the body will start to work differently, and the club will be presented differently into the back of the ball also. So over on the right hand side we've got the cane or the bar just above your head, just to give you some feedback if the head starts to move up or back. And the idea is to maintain your inclination throughout the swing, so you're using your inclination to the ground to improve the mechanics of your golf swing. So on the way back we've asked you to swing the club back a little bit shorter, so when accumulator 4 the left arm travels less, the amount of the twisting of the shaft reduces. You're also not pushed up out the box quite as much. If we look at the original footage, as the left arm starts to go further back, that's when you start to get pushed up. Left arm travels a little bit too far, so there's a little bit of a lifting. The left shoulder's popping up a little bit, pushing you out the box, and then that sort of continues then throughout the downswing. Here we've got accumulator 4, the left arm travelling a shorter distance, controlling the length of the arc, less twisting of the shaft. We're not getting pushed up as fast. Our inclination to the ground is improving slightly, so the right shoulder's still working down and around nicely. Could do that more, but still working down and around in an adequate amount. Club now in the sweet spot is inside the hands rather than outside the hands, more conducive to hitting an inline towards a draw. And then as you come through, by maxing out the right tilt, the club face closure is reduced ever so slightly. The amount of hip slide that you create has been more continuous, and it's just a case really of continuing that process and getting better at maintaining your inclination to the ground. You can also see that the right arm and the left arm are controlled a little bit more, not flung off the chest quite as fast, with the extension piece getting out of hand. So just using your inclination to the ground to make the downswing and through swing moves in regards to the lower body a little bit more incremental. Good luck with it. I look forward to working with you again in the coming months.